Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monte Belmonte.
Happy September, everybody!
Rabbit. 8 months down, 4 to go there, 2023.
Also, remember, we still have 3 weeks of summer left, y'all. Get it on. Later in the show, we head over to West Springfield to sit with Table and Vine ambassador Michael Quinlan and show a little love to a grape many think that they hate.
And Live Music Friday happens with Greenfield duo High Tea, who'll be playing at Hawks and Reed in Greenfield this Saturday. But first, the bad news.
Your radiator's on the ceiling. That is
in the basement here of French Hall.
Architecturally speaking, like, why would you put a radiator? Heat rises, so why would you put it on the ceiling above where the heat needs to go?
Maybe
because it's not going to fall down.
No humans were originally
to the people
destined to be in that building.
That's not how heat works.
Yes.
Heat rises.
I think the horses were going to be down here, and it does, keep the radiator away from the cockroaches. So,
we just had the president of the Mass Teachers Association and UMass Amherst architect professor Max Page on earlier this week. So
honestly, we should have asked Max Page about what they did with this building, but that's neither here
nor there.
We'll get him
to work. We know there's a lot of brutalism architecturally on campus at UMass, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
There really is, and we get those big cockroaches, like the 1-inch long ones here.
We used to get them at our old radio station all the time. It was terrifying.
I know, like the ones that are like living their best palmetto bug life.
Yes,
they are huge.
Yeah. Well, the reason we wanted to talk to you today, and we haven't even introduced our guest.
But we will.
Nick Brazee, who is from the UMass Extension Program and a plant pathologist at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where radiators are on the ceiling.
For reasons we don't understand, but also like we are in a building where there are a lot of architectural questions.
Yes.
So we feel you.
My big question, and it was really my wife who brought this to my attention, we have a lilac bush in our yard, and it looked sadder than I've ever seen this lilac bush look in the last 20 years. It looked like somebody set it on fire, and all of the leaves are withered and blackened to the point and almost crispy looking. Then we were walking down our street, and there was a hedgerow of lilac bushes on our street, and all of those lilac bushes looked particularly sad. Then I was at the Amherst home of our resident astronomer, Hampshire College's Dr. Salman Hamid, and I looked out his window, and I saw his lilac bush looked abysmal, and I thought maybe there is a lilac plague in the 4 counties of Western Mass. So who better to ask than UMass Extension, who deals with plant pathology? What is going on with lilacs in the 413?
And is it flood related?
Well, yes. So the lilacs are experiencing a pretty serious foliar blight caused by a fungal pathogen, and it is widespread throughout the valley and throughout the state. And as bad as it looks, it really is more of a cosmetic issue for these plants than a serious health issue, since we're so late in the growing season, and lilacs are just so hardy that they should be fine going into the next season. But right now they look absolutely terrible, and it is because of the very wet and humid summer that we have experienced. So many of these fungi, they need shade, they need lots of free moisture, and so these dense lilac canopies are perfect for that when you have this inundation of rain that we've had. So the spores are splashed all over, new infection centers develop, and then a foliar blight can consume the plant like it has on so many around the area.
But it's likely that they are not going to be damaged for the next season, even the blooms when they come out?
Also, how terrifying a phrase is nuclear blight.
Yeah, right.
The lilacs are extremely hardy, so it's very difficult to kill a lilac, even if you're trying to. So they should be fine going into next season. Ideally, we don't want our plants to shed all their leaves, in August, late August. But lilacs don't have any particularly nice foliage, so we're not missing out on anything there. And growth is, pretty much complete for the season. So they should be more or less fine next season. There may be a little bit of reductions in growth or flowering, but they should weather this pretty well.
We've been focusing so much on fruits and vegetables because of agriculture in this area, but are there more shrubs and bushes that are being affected by how wet it has been and continues to be?
We're seeing more foliar diseases like what's happening with the lilacs. But for a lot of trees, they're really enjoying this deep watering that they've received this summer, especially after the really intense drought that we experienced in 2022. So for a lot of mature trees, they really need that heavy rain that we've experienced to get that deep watering throughout their root system. And especially for a lot of our urban trees that have really restricted root zones or a lot of impervious surfaces around them. They need a lot of water for that to really, sink into the root zone where they have roots. So it's been really good for some trees and shrubs, and then for others, you see these localized disease outbreaks, which are not good. So it's a little bit of a mix.
We're speaking with Dr. Nick Brazee from UMass Extension, and I had reached out because I had noticed that the lilacs in my yard and in my neighborhood and then in other people's neighborhoods were looking terrible, and I thought, I've got the scoop on this story that nobody's talking about the death of lilacs in the 413. And Clem from UMass Extension, as well as you, Nick, kind of reached out and said, yeah, it's going to be, the lilac situation is going to be fine, but there are other really bad things that are going on. Are there particular types of bushes and plants that are being dramatically affected that won't have an easy time surviving through this, like you say, the lilacs will?
Yeah, one of the biggest disease issues that we're facing now in New England is beech leaf disease. And that is affecting our native American beech and also European beech, which is widely planted as an ornamental. And beech leaf disease is caused by a foliar nematode. Nematodes are microscopic roundworms, and they are abundant in all types of environments. We find them in terrestrial habitats, we find them in aquatic habitats. They're everywhere. Most of them are what we consider free living, where they are not causing any noticeable harm to plants, but some are pathogenic and cause disease.
Like most free living hippies.
Yes.
Most of them are harmless, but every once in a while it gets toxic.
Once in a while,
you nematodes.
So this nematode we suspect is non-native in North America, and it's targeting beech, and it attacks the foliage and the buds, and large populations lead to dieback and death of the trees. And beech is one of our most abundant forest trees, so this is really quite a dramatic event that we're kind of living through right now. We don't exactly know how it's going to play out, but it's predicted that we're going to lose the majority of our beech population over the next several years to decades, which is quite significant for the forest and our managed landscapes.
Is this like a second wave after the elms?
It does feel like we're living in this moment where, like chestnut blight, like Dutch elm disease, we're about to lose a tree species that is so dominant. Beech makes up almost 10% of all trees in the state. And we have almost 1.5 billion trees in Massachusetts, and beech makes up almost 10% of that. So it's a dominant component of our forests and our cities as well.
With some of these invasive species, it'll be like a bug where you can see the Asian milfoil or something like that. And, if you see it, let people know. And we can remediate in some way. Are these nematodes, these kind of microscopic, scary things that we're talking about, is there a way to defend against them? Is there things that we as homeowners and people who live amongst the trees can do to help? Or is this like a too late, everybody, climate change, well done, see ya, 10% of the billion trees in Massachusetts?
It's really an unprecedented situation that a nematode would cause mortality in a large tree like beech. So there isn't a precedent we can go back to for management. And so right now there's a lot of trials that are going on with various nematicides and other chemicals to try to slow it down. But none of them appear to be, 100% effective or even moderately effective. So there is a lot of concern among arborists and other tree care professionals. There's a lot of research that's happening right now, but there are no tried and true management practices that we can undertake right now to save beech. And so, unfortunately, by the time we have a regimen that's likely to work, there will have been pretty significant die-off of trees.
Is this perhaps like a result not just of climate change, but resistance is built up due to pesticides already being in use?
It's more an issue of global trade. And so we see this time and again. There's just so many introduced fungi, bacteria, insects, in this case nematodes, from other continents through global shipping. We're just moving so much material back and forth between these continents, and these organisms hitch a ride and they get introduced, and many never develop into a widespread outbreak, but it's just a constant inundation of new invasive organisms, and only a small percentage are able to establish. But when they do, we have, something like Dutch elm disease, or in this case, beech leaf disease that just kind of takes off.
I'm trying to fight off the depression, Dr. Nick Brazee from UMass Extension, who is a pathologist, a plant pathologist with the Extension program. And I know that there was a time where almost all viticulture, wine and vines in Europe was decimated, but it was American rootstock grafted into that was resistant to these type of things that was essentially able to save wine as we know it in Europe. Is there a potential for, say, our elms here in Massachusetts and New England who are suffering from this that came from somewhere else to graft in or rescue and not have a decimated elm population by grafting in something that is resistant from somewhere else?
Yeah, that's definitely a focus of research, looking for resistant trees, or going back to the source of the organism, in this case, the nematode, and looking at native populations of beech in those areas to see, what kind of disease it causes in those populations. In the case like elm, we have identified resistant cultivars of American elm, and those are sold in nurseries, and you can plant those today. They're still susceptible to infection, but they do a good job of resisting the disease. Hopefully we will get to that point with beech, but that's many, many years away. Any kind of research or trials with trees just takes a long time because they grow so slowly. So it literally takes decades to kind of come up with these answers. And unfortunately, for some of these infested trees, they're dying in a matter of a few years. And so it's just going to sweep through New England is our suspicion. And there'll be widespread mortality before we have a lot of answers to these questions.
That's our show, everybody.
No, it's
See
just,
ya.
again,
Bye.
it reminds me of like our talk with the folks at the Berkshire Botanical Garden, where their horticulturalist was lamenting how many, like every time they talk to their arborist and they just are told about more pathogens moving up from that they never had to deal with before, that now are killing like large populations of things that they've been cultivating and maintaining for, decades, like 9 centuries. And it's just upsetting. What draws the nematodes to the beech? Have we figured out what draws them to the beech trees yet?
They are dispersed by birds, by insects, probably by small rodents. They could probably move locally on air currents. So bird dispersal seems to be a primary way in which they're spread. The fact that they're microscopic means that we can't see them in the field. But there's a lot of different means in which they can spread. Spread through the nursery trade seems to be fairly limited, but that's also a likely source in some cases. But there's just plenty of ways they can hitch a ride and move from beech to beech, and which is one of the things that's most alarming is we'll find an isolated infested beech, and we know it's been spread by something with long distance means of dispersal. There's no other infected trees around it, so it is able to travel long distances from areas with known infestations to areas that don't have it.
And once again, like free-living hippies, these free-living nematodes have found a way to hitch a ride from isolated beech to beech.
Can't we make them like interested in bittersweet or something like that? I would love to put a terrible nematode infestation
that's what we need. We need
on the bittersweet in my yard. Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, we need a nematode that's going to go after
or...
Japanese knotweed or something like that. Yes.
Bittersweet is the word.
These nematodes, even though they're not actually toads, are my nemesis worms now. So
maybe they can get interested in sumac.
There's any number of things we would like to try to channel their energies in destroying, not our beaches, because where is Beech Ken going to go, first of all?
Yeah, because actually my job, it's just beach.
Right. And what a good job you do at beach.
And then, second of all, 10% of all of the trees in Massachusetts
It's
over the
his
next
whole
couple
job.
of years
His whole job is beech.
Yeah, is complicated.
Are there any diseases that are hitting maybe a little bit south of here, a little bit west of here, that you're worried about hitting our horizon?
Yes, and number one on that list is oak wilt. So that is a
the oaks
wilt
are
disease.
next.
Yeah, it's very similar to Dutch elm disease, except it's more difficult to diagnose. So, yeah, that is one that's in Western New York and Pennsylvania.
Oh, it's real close.
It's coming.
It's yeah. We're just waiting for it here in New England.
Did you watch The Last of Us HBO television show and think of this as reality?
No.
Oh my God!
Don't watch. Don't.
Yeah, it's all about
You
fungus
live
turning
that show
into
except
zombies.
for the zombies.
And it's based on a real fungus. It's yeah. I would love to hear your take on that someday.
Yeah, thankfully, Oakville moves very slowly, so we'll have a chance with that one.
Again, like zombies.
Yes, like a zombie.
Back to the slightly positive thing that brought you to us today, Dr. Nick Brazee from UMass Extension, the lilacs. They may look sad right now, but they are probably going to weather this season and be fine next year. Should people who have lilacs in their yards or access to lilacs do anything to assist them, or is it nature will take its course with this and everything should be okay?
Or prevent this in the future, too.
Yeah, one of the things you can do is, as the leaves are shed, you can clean those up from underneath the plant because they do harbor the fungus and they allow it to persist into next spring. So by cleaning up the foliage, you'll remove a lot of the pathogen from that site. You can compost it or take it to, the brush dump or something like that. But pruning out any dead material, opening up the plants with pruning to improve airflow and light penetration into the interior canopy can help. And lilacs get very dense, so just thinning them out a little bit can help.
So like free living hippies, air those things out once in a while.
Are you talking about thinning out hippies?
I mean, air themselves out. Individual hippies, not as a population of people. I love you, hippies. I miss you, Steve, the hippie, in particular. Dr. Nick Brazee from UMass Extension, thank you so much for easing some of my fears and then also creating
several
seated other fears of things to look forward to in the future.
Oh, no, beech trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Even if this was just like 15 minutes of horror.
Yeah, right.
I know. Pathology is kind of sad, isn't it?
I hope that you find lightness outside of your job to help you deal with finding out about the trees dying.
We'll always have bittersweet and not weed.
No!
We'll always have poison ivy.
You'll grow
we'll
to
always have plants out
grow
there.
to love it.
No! No, I don't wanna. I don't have to.
Well, that was fun.
Up next, we'll drown our environmental sorrows in Bordeaux with Michael Quinlan of Table and Vine.
And later in the show, a softer beverage. We'll have High Tea, live music Friday with Greenfield's own High Tea. You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on NEPM. Once again, we enter the Tina Turner Memorial Wine Thunderdome here with our friend Michael Quinlan, the ambassador of Table and Vine in West Springfield. And you are bringing out a grape that gets a bad rap, I think. What are we going to be drinking today, Michael Quinlan?
We've got a couple of Chardonnays.
I had a few Chardonnays, what of it?
To your point, right? Chardonnay, for being the most popular grape, is also controversial.
Why is that?
Because people did bad things with it for years.
Yeah, and some still do.
Some still do bad things with it,
Yeah.
yes.
I won't tell you
Look
what
right
I've done
over
with
here
it.
at this label that says buttery on it and sneering at it.
We're not drinking that one.
We're not drinking that one.
Because we want you, listener, to become a wine snob like us.
Which isn't to say that if you like buttery Chardonnay, that you shouldn't like buttery Chardonnay. Just don't bring it to my house.
Right.
That's 100% true, right? It's like, but I feel like the difference for so much stuff is like the commercialization, right? So, this is made buttery. It's appealing to a consumer that likes that richness, that flavor. But, it's commercial. It's a wine that's not necessarily made completely tied to its place of growth, to its sunlight, to its terroir, right, as we say.
What and where gave Chardonnay this bad rep that people, even if they don't really know about wine, may have heard? Like, I know I'm not supposed to like Chardonnay unless it's unoaked Chardonnay, and I don't really understand what any of this means.
Right.
I've just heard other people say it.
Well, let's face it. So what Chardonnay does better than almost any other grape is produces sugar, which converts to alcohol, right? It makes boldly flavored power wines because as a grape grows, right, it's acid. If you think about like eating fruit before it's ripe, it's so tart, and that's grapes for sure, right? Grapes in June, the acid's super high, the sugar's super low, and then throughout the growing season, the sugar comes up, the acid goes down. Along with that, of course, the skins get ripe, and that's where the flavor comes from. So Chardonnay will produce tons of sugar, tons of flavor. And, it's America, Jack. Like, we're after flavor. We're after, like, maximum, right? Like, America! Yeah! This Chardonnay, you know what it is? Extra.
Yeah, because once again, as Americans, we are real bad at nuance. We've
Yes.
never been good at it.
Right.
Like, it's got to be big and in our face, otherwise we just miss it entirely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing too, that a lot of growers in California, and this is, going back 40, 50 years here, we're looking at things as farmers, right? They're looking at things like ripeness is good, right? But now what we've started to understand is ripeness is good, but what about balance, right? And I think even in California, especially at the high end, you see incredibly well-made Chardonnays now because people are growing in cooler climates, places where acidity stays as part of the final product, and it's so important, right? It creates everything in our mouth. It gives the entire trampoline effect to the fruit and everything else.
It's also worth noting that Chardonnay from California is really what put the U.S. viticulture and winemaking on the map when it was brought to France in the Judgment of Paris, as they call it, and won in a blind tasting all these awards.
Again, there's a movie about it called Bottle Shock in which Chris Pine is wearing the worst wig ever.
Hey, can we get a barrel sample for this French wine snob? He doesn't think we make real wine here.
Some of those places are in existence and make excellent Chardonnay in a way that isn't ham-fisted in the way that we have been disparaging.
If you think about it too, though, right, we know that our entire planet is warmer than it was, right? So achieving ripeness in the 70s was different. Like people, you talk to winemakers now and they're like, oh, my grandfather, he never dreamt of making a wine that was 14% alcohol, and we're making 14, 5, 15% all the time. I mean, it's like we're on a different planet now in terms of the ability to get grapes ripe. That's why high elevation, cooler climates have become so important, because these winemakers are trying to find a way to make a wine with nuance, and that's step one.
Well, what are we going to drink here in the Wine Thunderdome at Table and Vine with Michael Quinlan?
I noticed that neither of these Chardonnays are from America.
That's what I was going to say too.
Unless you have $70 that you want to spend on a bottle of wine and get Chateau Monte, where incidentally, former mayor of Northampton, David Narkowitz's brother works.
That's right.
It's wicked good. You see why these wines put the American wine culture on the map. But
Great wines.
if you are on a budget, like radio hosts, you need to think about what else to do.
Well, here's two different Chardonnays from France, and one comes from Burgundy, right, the southern part of Burgundy in the Macon region, and one comes from the Languedoc, so close to the water that the vineyard faces a little lagoon right on the Mediterranean.
And that's what Languedoc stands for. It means dock on the lagoon.
It does?
No, it doesn't. It has nothing to do with that. I believe it means the language of Oc, which is like an ancient pre-French language. Means yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Language of yes.
The language of yes.
Would it be like languid dock? Like
It's a
where you just
languid
like
dock.
land,
You know,
languid.
you just
Yeah. We're
lounge
just
down
lounging on it like we were all
Waiting for the grapes to
last week
arrive.
when it was beach week.
Yeah, because actually my job, it's just beach.
Let me know when the grapes are ripe, and I'll get up off this chaise lounge.
And now you'll be using wet leg.
Yes, I will. That's a band, everybody. It's not the thing that I've done to ruin Chardonnay yet. All right, what's this first one?
So the first one is the Macon. It's Macon Looney. What's neat about both these wines is they're both made by cooperatives, right? So cooperatives are a group of small growers. They all own land, but they don't own the winemaking equipment. They don't own all of the necessary things you would need to make wine, but they're just farmers at their core. And so they all put their grapes together, one winemaker, one facility, and then someone that goes out and sells it too, right? Because no winemaker gets paid until the wine goes out and it gets sold.
Think Cabot Cheese, where there's all sorts of dairy producers in the Northeast.
Right.
Their cooperative is Cabot Cheese. It is not a small cooperative, and a lot of these are not either.
Or Family Farms, who were also on a previous episode.
Right. All right. So this is
Unoaked, Macon Looney Les Charmes.
Hello, melons.
Hello, Looney. It's Lugny, not like the
Lugny.
Looney
Lugny.
Tunes. Yeah,
Pretty
Lugny.
much every salesman that's ever sold this is like Macon lug nuts.
Cave de Lugny. That's what it says. Les Charmes. Don't squeeze the Charmes.
Ladies, you can't squeeze the Charmin.
Burgundy is, in my humble opinion, the best Chardonnay.
It is.
White Burgundy is always Chardonnay.
Always Chardonnay.
Yeah. People will say things like, I know I'm not supposed to like Chardonnay, but I know I am supposed to like Burgundy. I'll have the white. And
I
then
can't believe how many people will come in and go like, oh, I want to get one of these Puy Fuise, and I love that. And you're like, oh, have you ever had La Crema Chardonnay or this thing? They're like, oh, no, I don't like Chardonnay. And you're like, well, you're drinking Chardonnay there, but it's completely different, right? It's just-
and it is different, even though it's the same grape. There is something very special about Burgundy where this is from.
melons, right? The citric thing here.
That acidity just spreads. And it's light too. Like there's no, like it's so bouncy.
A big tasting note that I often get in Chardonnays that I like can be green apple, and I think I'm getting some of that in this. As we head into apple season, whether I'm ready or not,
we're just happy to get some at this point.
Yeah, I saw an email from Grow Food that Apex was at the market this week, and that they feel like they're going to be able to be there every week. So I was like, oh, that's a relief, you know.
Michael Quinlan, also on the board of Grow Food Northampton.
Yeah, talking with the plant pathologist, just sort of like, okay, so the cascade of this year agriculturally has led to these wine tastings being more enjoyable because I need more at home thinking about the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My jam is affordable white Burgundy, aka Chardonnay. If we were to be able to talk about how much this wine would be, how would we describe that?
It'd be like halfway between, somewhere in there.
Halfway between a Hamilton
A Hamilton or two.
and a Future Tubman.
It's a really
Future
good one.
Tubman sounds like a sci-fi series that should definitely exist.
Yep. You can write it.
Yes.
Khalees Smith's book, coming this fall. Not sci-fi.
Not sci-fi. Fantasy, though.
But coming this
And
fall.
for children.
Future Tubman can be for children, too. This is delicious. Now I can't untaste the green apple thing that I said. I put that note in my head, and I really love that.
Well, green apple often ties to more of the acidity, right? It's like, because there's really two kinds of acidity in wine, right? There's malic acidity and there's lactic acidity. And it goes through, like a lot of wine goes through a conversion. This one didn't, right? So malic acidity, and I always think that, like when you're eating a green apple, you feel the malic acidity. So it makes your mouth water so sharply. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what this wine has.
And they call it malolactic fermentation. And the lactic sounds like milky type things, lactate. When you get a creamier or buttery Chardonnay, that's what is one of the reasons it's like that. Another, and people do know this buzzword too, is I know that I can get Chardonnay if it's unoaked Chardonnay, which I don't disagree with most of the time, frankly, depending on what kind of oak. But talk about why that is a factor in people's perception about Chardonnay.
Right. So again, getting back to acidity, right? If you grow grapes and you make a wine that has a lot of acidity and you put it into oak barrels, if you think about wood, right? Wood's porous, so air's going in. Whenever air goes into wine, acidity goes down, which is why it doesn't taste as good if it sits on the counter for 2 days, because it just gets so flat because the acidity just dissipates into the air. And that's what the oak barrels do too, but in a controlled sense. You still should have some acidity when you're done and when you bottle it, but the acidity's gone, just calmed from the air transfer, basically.
And American oak has wider grains, so more of that transfer happens.
Yeah.
And French oak and other
vanilla.
Hungarian and other types of oak have a tighter grain and impart less into the wine itself.
Right, and that's right. American oak with that wider grain, just more wine is going to seep into the oak, and then more of that oak flavor is going to seep into the wine. So American oak is that powerful vanilla. Some people
President Camacho of oak.
Dwayne Elizondo Camacho, 5-time Ultimate SmackDown champion, porn superstar, and President of the United States.
I wonder if that will change when the oaks die.
We've already discussed that earlier in the show. We don't.
brings it down.
Yeah. Oh. What's the second wine?
Let me just stand back up. The second wine is from the south, like I said, it's from the Languedoc. So it's also Chardonnay, 100%. And I'm really interested to see what you think of this wine, because I feel like this is similar and different in so many ways, right? And this is wine Thunderdome here, so you're really trying to find wines that have a lot in common and slight variances to see if those variances drive a person's opinion one way or another.
What is with this mapley caramel thing happening?
Creme brulee was the number one thing I smelled when I put it in there. Toasted marshmallow?
Yeah.
No oak barrels.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Super ripe.
What on earth?
Super ripe fruit. Like now you're at before.
Languedoc is in France. I mean, I always assume people know that, but they don't. And it's in southern France, so it's warmer there, so it means it's going to get riper.
Yep. And we've gone to pear here, right? I mean, it's like pear creme brulee.
Poached pears. Oh.
I haven't sipped it yet because I am contemplating it, like my navel. It's got lint in it as well.
Oh, I love this excellent silence, right? The contemplation of this wine. Because the wine has interesting complexity and it's different. I'll tell you the secret. This wine is made with a little bit of oak, but not oak barrels.
Oh, so they put oak chips?
Like a big tea bag of oak chips into the stainless steel tanks. If you think about it, then this is exactly what this wine becomes, is what you think, right? It retains all of the acidity. Your mouth still waters quite a bit, but you have the oak flavor. So there's no dissipation of acidity from oak barrel, but you do get that soft sort of vanilla match. It's like a matchstick thing to me every time I've had this wine.
I couldn't figure out how on earth they would get such what felt like a woody thing from a wine that was not barreled in oak.
Right.
Well done.
It's also got like a little more body to because it's got good acidity, but it's just got like a little more body to it.
So the Macon Looney is a top seller, one of our better selling white Burgundies, and then you have this Legade Chardonnay from Languedoc, and we're like, wow, like we found a counterpart here that's not from Burgundy that's still really affordable.
This Legade Chardonnay from Languedoc feels like they're trying to reach to the American market. Throwing in those oak chips into the stainless steel.
Yeah, in a very French way. Like, maybe we'll do a little bit of this.
Are these comparable in price?
They are.
2 wines enter, 1 wine leaves. That is the theme of the Thunderdome, and we are at Table and Vine, West Springfield, with Michael Quinlan, the Table and Vine ambassador. We've got Cave de Lugny, spelled Lugny, Le Charme from Burgundy, and the Legade, the tricky, unoaked, like the Jade Fox from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Chardonnay from the Languedoc.
It does have a man riding a horse on the bottle, so, that's where the French comes in.
Yeah, it's embossed.
Otherwise, this is pretty, modern for a label.
Yeah, it does not look like a very traditional French label.
There's also a man riding a horse on top of my chest.
Could be a problem. We always say these things because we care about you, Michael Quinlan.
I know. It's just one of those things, when I heard you say that, all I could think was interior, crocodile, alligator. I drive a Chevrolet movie theater. Am I the only one that thought that?
Yes. But welcome to our club. We all live in our own worlds.
There's a man riding a horse on top of my chest.
A life of non sequiturs.
Yes.
It's time to vote.
Okay.
2 man engine, 1 man lead.
Want me to go first?
Yeah.
I'm going with the white Burgundy, which I have always loved and appreciated. White Burgundy, my favorite place to get Chardonnay from. I still love Chardonnay. I do like the Languedoc one. I don't like that they're trying to trick us by putting wood chips in it, I'll tell you that.
Oh, you're just mad about you're mad about the conceit.
I'm mad about the conceit.
You just feel lied to.
And also, they're trying to placate the American palate quite clearly. I don't think there's French people that want that necessarily.
But,
I don't know. Who knows what the French like?
Oh, wow.
Snails?
That's a whole statement.
I love
also,
snails.
snails are delicious.
Oh, yeah, I love snails.
Quite good.
Who's next to vote?
I don't know if I should speak after that pile of Molotov cocktails you just threw out there.
This is not a cocktail Thunderdome.
It's a Molotov cocktail Thunderdome.
Yeah. We'll get out the anarchist cookbook and show you our favorite recipes.
Flame reigns supreme.
All right, I'm going to vote next because I want to put the pressure on Khalees. I'm voting for the Legade.
Wow,
I just
all
love
right.
that softness to the wine. Still
Languedoc?
with acidity, but soft.
It's up to you.
So I'm gonna go with the Looney. And I like the Jade a lot. I think it would be a check this out sort of wine, and I'm not sure by the end of the bottle I'd be as into it as I am at the beginning.
I was actually thoroughly interested in smelling that wine for a long time, the Legade, because of the creme brulee, the marshmallow, the maple, all that stuff that was going on. Fascinating.
Yeah.
If I want to drink a whole bottle of this with somebody.
Then I'm probably gonna drink the Looney.
Or even by yourself.
Exactly, but I try not to tell too many people about that.
Yeah,
I know
I
there are
know.
people that have alcohol issues that listen to this show, and I apologize that we do this every week. Know not to listen on Fridays for part of the show.
Yeah, sorry.
We're with you in spirit, but not in spirits.
I feel like this is the drinking equivalent of the Intranet is for porn song.
The internet is really, really great.
For porn.
It's sorry guys, we drink.
NEPM has a whole wine lovers weekend. I don't know what to tell you. Sorry. White Burgundy wins.
Burgundy wins.
White Burgundy wins, but they are both really cool wines.
And the big takeaway that I would hope that the listener would have is that don't do what I hear so many people do, which is say, I know I'm not supposed to like Chardonnay, or I know I'm only supposed to like unoaked Chardonnay. Neither of those things are necessarily true.
I think you're supposed to like whatever I tell you to like.
You're supposed to like whatever your tongue tells you
That's
you
right.
like.
That's what I meant. That's
But
what I meant.
also, you can figure out some better words to describe what you like to have people help you out.
And also expand what your tongue touches from just California Chardonnay.
Really?
Try
Are we-
France.
Expand what your tongue touches. That's where we're at now.
Yeah, there's a light switch over there.
There's some outlets too.
Yeah.
Stick your head in
Yeah.
the microwave and give yourself a tan.
Stick your head in the microwave and get yourself a tan.
Weird Al always.
Yes.
Always. On the way, it's Live Music Friday with the Franklin County-based band playing at Hawksum Reed and Greenfield on Saturday night. High tea.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on NEPM.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monte Belmonte. It's Live Music Friday. Jed Gottlieb of the Boston Herald writes, High Tea went looking for a way to represent the themes of the new album, The Wick and the Flame, that felt artistic and off-kilter. The folk roots indie duo from Western Mass decided to set a dollhouse ablaze.
We approve. We ended up lighting this dollhouse on fire for the cover art, singer-guitarist Isabella DeHert told the Herald. But before we lit it on fire, we decorated it. We put fake moss on it. We covered it in glitter. We painted it. We put pine cones on it. We put in TLC before burning it down. It felt like an apt metaphor for creation and music and life. DeHert added, you create something and then you have to let it go.
And joining us in the studio is Isabella DeHert and Isaac Elliott, the duo behind the group that burned a dollhouse down, High Tea.
That is us. Hello.
We want to talk more about that in just a little bit. Playing tomorrow, Saturday, September 2nd at Hawks and Reed in Greenfield with previous Live Music Friday guests, Cloud Belly. Welcome to you both.
Welcome. Hello, thank you so much for having us.
Indeed.
Before we chat, let's hear a song.
Daddy grew up in this house, sleeping in the same room you've got now. His mama's mama sewed those sheets. The same sun went down over those same cold evergreens. Your daddy raised you with a bite that he learned from a lineage with no love inside. He never knew there was a choice. How could he give you one? Nah, just teach you their advice. Don't try to double back. Try to make it without the pack. Try to double back. You'll never make it like that. But maybe in the nighttime, running down the same old set of stairs as him. Oh, if you get it right this time, maybe you won't leave the air. Don't miss the landing. Don't let the carpet slow you down. Ooh, don't forget where the creaky board is. Don't let it sell you out. Sneak out of town. Oh, Elijah, do it now. Break that circle, break out. Tried to run away. One night he packed a bag from the Salvation Army he had hid away, but the porch light lit up fast, and your grandpa had an anger that left Daddy in a cast. He tried to double back, tried to make it without the pack. But you can double back, and you can make it like that. Maybe in the nighttime, running down the same old stairs as him. Oh, if you get it right this time, maybe one day you can let him in. Oh, don't miss the landing. Don't let the porch light slow you down. Oh, you know where the creaky board is. Don't let it sell you out. Show him how.
Greenfield's High Tea here on Live Music Friday in the fabulous 413.
Soon to be Colerane's High
Soon to be
Tea.
Coleraine, we hear.
Oh, yes.
Whoa.
They're stealing us.
And playing at Hawks and Reed in Greenfield tomorrow night, and then playing as part of the Rivers and Roads Festival next weekend with huge heavy hitters, Dar Williams and Sean Colvin and Amy Ray of the Indigo Girls, Lisa Loeb, Sweet Honey in the Rock.
Oh my God.
Yeah. How you guys feeling about that?
Yeah, that's
Oh, God. In the best possible way, oh, God.
Psyched and also psyched out.
Absolutely terrified. We're going to be there with our favorite, Heather Maloney. We're going to be singing some of her new songs from her new album as well. But I think, the Indigo Girls have been just a huge inspiration to you, Isaac, and myself, and I think getting to play this festival is such an honor. So we're really excited.
And a renewed interest in the Indigo Girls because of the Barbie movie and Beach
Boom.
Ken.
Beach
I promised our
Ken.
engineer, Betsy, that I would try to mention Beach Ken in every
So now
segment.
we have a hat trick,
Yeah, there we go.
and everybody's satisfied.
Yes.
There you go.
We wouldn't have played another song if you hadn't been able to work that in.
I feel like, Isabella, I've known you since you were practically a young child.
Well, I remember coming on your show when I was in middle school because we'd made mittens that we were giving away to the community. Awful mittens that third graders had made. But we came on and we talked to you about it. And I remember, I think this is one of the first times we'd met.
Wow.
And it's been, years.
Now you're a fixture of the local music scene. You're part of the Green River Festival and the backstage crew. And you're an alumna of the Institute for Musical Arts
Yes, I
in
am.
Goshen,
Oh, yeah.
Rock Camp for Girls, and June Millington and Ann Hackler and all those great people there. And how did you and Isaac meet? I'll let you answer that question.
Hello.
Yeah.
We actually met at Berkeley College of Music has a 5-week high school summer program.
Yes, for all those crazy music teens.
Yeah, crazy time, fun time. We met there. We didn't actually start playing music there, but we met there and became friends. And then years later, we're in each other's bubble in the pandemic, and we're like, wait a minute. Why
are we not doing this?
made
Because
music
that was our
together?
silver lining of the pandemic days, because I couldn't play with my other group, Calliope Jones, because we were scattered about, and Isaac and I were living together, and we had that little light bulb moment of like, why have we never done this? So now we're here, and we're very happy to be here.
Truly.
And you were one of the finalists for WBUR's who put forward for the Tiny Desk
Yes,
concert.
we were,
So,
for our song Old Cowboy, with a video made by the wonderful Wyatt Andrews, who we adore working with, who's doing sound at Hawks and Reed. So all Western Mass people all the time. What a wonderful bubble we're in.
And various other places, too, like Wyatt's a great person.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
He's done sound for Extempore many times.
Well, let's take a little break, and then we'll come back and hear more music with High Tea on this Live Music Friday on
And
the
ask
Fabulous
you about
413.
dollhouses.
Yeah, we want to hear about the dollhouses.
We have much to say.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday, like we do most Fridays, bring in a local band, have them play in studio. And today we're joined by Franklin County's High Tea, who did something for one of their albums that you can pick up on their Bandcamp page because, oh, hey, it's also Bandcamp Friday, the day that Bandcamp waives its fees for people who are selling things on their platform. But you burned a dollhouse down for some of the visuals after building up this beautiful thing. Are there before and after pictures on the album?
I have them
We have
somewhere.
before.
They're not newly released, unreleased images. But we got lucky. So my mother she has a vintage shop in Shelburne Falls, and she just has a basement full of the weirdest things, coolest things, weirdest things. And I said, Mother, could you find us a dollhouse? And she said, of course I can. She found this dollhouse. I don't know where. I don't know whose it had been, but we gave it a new life and then a death, unfortunately. All in the name of arts. But yeah, we do have some pictures of the dollhouse before. Somewhere.
Yeah, they definitely exist.
Yeah.
How do you like writing for this group as opposed to Calliope Jones? Like, how does the songwriting process feel different for you? Or does it?
That's a really good question. I feel like with Calliope Jones, especially our new stuff, I think about dancing. And in this, I think about storytelling. And there's always an interesting medium, I think, a mix of the two. But for us, I love doing things that tell stories, but also really let you release emotions, whether it's in softer moments or loud screaming moments. We've said we are moving more towards like a folk punk world now, which we're really having fun with. So I love to think about just how can we release whatever the emotion is of a story I want to tell. That's what I think about with High Tea, at least.
Right on.
Well, maybe we should do the credits now so that we can get another song in for this Live Music Friday. So I do want to say that musical thanks to Spouse, Happy Valley Guitar Orchestra, Waxahachie, Screaming Trees, Tina Turner, Adam Sandler, Team America, World Police, Idiocracy, Wet Leg, Looney Tunes, Chip the Rapper, Weird Al Yankovic, and our guests today, High Tea.
Our director is Tony. Fortnite hibernation done.
Our engineer is Betsy. Christmas is for all times Lankto.
Our engineering team is Bart Hard Drive Despair Rankin, Phil Typically Phil Bishop, Kara It'll Happen Foster, and Punk Rude Boy Dubé.
And now, more live music from the band that'll be playing tomorrow at Hawks and Reed in Greenfields on September 2nd, and then playing as part of the Rivers and Roads Festival with Heather Maloney next weekend. Greenfield soon to be Cole Rains, High Tea.
Black cat hidden in my blackjack hand, and I've been waiting for you at the crossroads, babe. I got a slice of heaven and a little piece of hell, and I've been waiting for you at the wishing well. I'll trade you money and fame, or just a leg up in the game. Maybe something pretty to put to waste, or maybe something more kind. Maybe some of my time, maybe something that both of us like. There's magic in the way you dance with me and say I seem just like an angel falling from grace. I got a whole lot of loving, I could use it on you. Got a whole lot of loving and some heartbreaking too. Whole lot of loving, I could use it on you. Got a whole lot of loving, if you want me, want me, want me, want me, want me too. Black spot painted on my grease palm, sign it on the dotted line. If you trust me, dear, you smell different than those other kinds of fools that make their way down this dark road to face their fear. You got a glint in your eye, the kind that I've always liked, and something about that smile just ain't sane. Well, it's a lonely trade, tying fate strings in a braid, but maybe there's something here to gain. There's magic in the way you kiss me and you say I seem just like the devil if he had taste. I got a whole lot of loving, I could use it on you. Got a whole lot of loving and some heartbreaking too. Whole lot of loving, I could use it on you. Got a whole lot of loving, if you want me, want me, want me, want me, want me too. Yeah. Hey, hey. Hey, hey. Won't you hold me tight? Sell your soul tonight. I promise just to take a small bite. I got a whole lot of loving, whole lot of loving, whole lot of loving. Ooh, got a whole lot of loving, yeah, yeah, yeah. A whole lot of loving, I could use it on you. Got a whole lot of loving and some heartbreaking too. Whole lot of loving, I could use it on you. Got a whole lot of loving, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you want me, want me, want me, want me, want me too.
High Tea!
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for being here, playing tomorrow at Hawks and Reed in Greenfield. Isabel DeHerd and Isaac Elliott. Also playing next weekend at the River and Roads Festival. Monday we'll have a special Labor Day show focusing on better labor practices and worker-owned co-ops with Dean's Beans.
And talking about the various way that people of various classes used to talk in Chicopee with linguist Ren Wood.
Plus, live music from the hardest working man in show business in Western Mass,
Ray Mason.
I'm Monte Belmonte.
I'm Clee Smith. See you next week on the Fabulous 413.